Okay, so today we're going to be talking about 3.2 and 3.3, which are parallel lines that are cut by a transversal. First of all, since I'm not there, unfortunately we're not going to be able to do the computer activity, so you can go ahead and scratch that out. And I'm just going to talk about these things for you. If you have parallel lines, meaning the two lines that we were drawing yesterday, and I apologize that my drawings are not going to be that great, and then they are cut by a transversal, and I'm going to represent these parallel lines with little arrowheads on them. Whenever you see that, that means that the lines are parallel. If parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then something happens with our special angle pairs. Okay? So we're going to talk about AIAs, AEAs, correspondings, and our SSIAs. When the transversal cuts a parallel line, let's look at AIAs, and remember those are the ones that make a Z. These are the angles that are on opposite sides of the transversal, but on the same side of the two lines, on the inside. When the transversal cuts, these two angles, become equal. So anytime a transversal cuts parallel lines, AIA angles are equal. Okay? The same thing happens when we have AEA, corresponding, and the SSIAs are the ones that are a little bit different. These are the two angles right here. I'm going to mark them with blue. These two angles on the inside. They're inside the two lines and on the same side of the transversal. These two lines are supplementary. So anytime you have parallel lines with a transversal cutting them, the SSIAs will equal 180 degrees. Now moving on to how to prove two lines are parallel, since we talked about earlier up above, when a transversal cuts parallel lines, it makes all of the special angle pairs congruent and the SSIAs equal to 180. So to work backwards, you would just have to prove that either the AIA, AEA, or corresponding are equal, or that the SSI angles equal 180 degrees. If you can show this by setting up an equation and show that the two angles are equal, then you can say that the two lines are parallel. Now let's do a couple practice problems. For the first one, it asks us to look at angle 1 and angle 4. Like I was telling you yesterday, highlight those angles because sometimes it's easier to see those angles highlighted together to see what kind of pair they are. And it asks us to decide what parallel lines make angle 1 and angle 4 alternate interior angles. And remember that we said AIA angles make the Z. Okay, so if I look over here at angle 1 and angle 4, I need to decide first, before I even look at anything, when I have a closed figure, it is best to extend our lines. So go ahead on your picture right now and extend every line that you see, because that might help us to recognize the picture a little bit better. Okay, and then I'm going to change my color so we can highlight the angles. So now I've got angle 1 and angle 4. I need to decide which two lines are parallel for them to become AIAs. If I make the Z with angle 1 and angle 4, the two lines that make these angles happen is line BC, I think that's a C, BC, and then that's AD. Okay, so line BC and AD, let me re-extend those since I accidentally erased them. Okay, go back to my blue pen. Alright, so then there's my Z. So these two lines are parallel, and this line cutting through the middle diagonally is our transversal. Okay, now let's look at the next one. For which pair of parallel lines make 2 and 3 AIA? So now we're looking the other way. Here's angle 3, and here's angle 2. So now I need to make a Z with these two. Now this Z is going to be a little sideways, and that's okay. That's why I was telling you this is kind of like a puzzle. You might have to twist and turn your paper a bunch of different ways to be able to figure out what lines are parallel and which ones are the transversals. So to make this Z, the two lines that form the Z are these two here. Line AB and line DC. Okay, now we've got some more examples where we're just going to practice setting up the equation. I know that everyone knows how to solve an equation, so what I want to practice is just recognizing what the angle pair is and the equation that you set up. And up here when it says state the theorem or postulate that led you to that equation, those are our types of angle pairs. So let's go ahead and write those up there. So we have AIAs, AEAs, corresponding SSIAs, linear pairs, and vertical pairs. So there are all of our special angle pairs. So we want to look at each of these and decide what pair are they, and then set up the equation, but we don't need to solve them, even though I know that's what you'll be doing in your homework and stuff. So we need to look here and decide how, at number 1, could I figure out what x is. So first I have to decide these two are not a pair, which means I am going to have to find another angle that has a relationship with one of them that could then relate to angle 110. And what I mean by that is if you look at angle 110, it is corresponding with the angle above this one here. Okay, so that means that if this angle up here is 110, that this angle is also 110. And then we can notice that these two here are a linear pair. So the equation I can set up is 4x plus 10 equals 110. And then you would go on and solve. Now let's look at number 2. So I have this angle and this angle. I know that lines A and B are my two parallel lines. So I need to decide what angle pair are they. I know that they're both on the inside of the two lines, so that automatically is going to eliminate an AEA as well as the corresponding, because the corresponding also has to have at least one on the outside. It eliminates linear pair because they're not next to each other, eliminates vertical pair because they are not back to back, and it eliminates SSIA because they are not on the same side of the transversal. So that leaves me with one option, which is AIA. And that also makes a Z. So when lines are parallel, I know that AIAs are equal. So I can set these two, 3x minus 50, equal to 2x minus 5, and solve from there. Moving on to number 3, I need to identify the pair. So I have two angles that are on the same side of the transversal and both on the inside. These are my SSIA angles. SSIA is the one that we know is a little different. It's the one that's set equal to 180. So I'm actually going to take 6x plus 12 plus 2x equal to 180 and solve from there. And I'm going to go back up to 1 and 2 because I forgot to write what pair we recognized. So here we recognized corresponding first to get us here, and then we recognized a linear pair to set up our equation. And in number 2 we said that these were AIA. And lastly, let's look at number 4 here. It's kind of similar to number 1. The two angles that we have do not have a relationship, but we know that if this is a right angle, that this one must also be a right angle. And this right angle here that I just drew, and the angle that has 4x plus 22, is a corresponding pair. So I'm going to write corresponding here. And we know that if the lines A and B are parallel, that corresponding angles are equal. So I can take 4x plus 22 and set it equal to 90. Now looking at number 5, it's very similar to number 1 and 4. The two angles they give us are not a pair, so we have to find another pair. So if I look here at angle 57, I see that it is corresponding with the angle above the one that I'm given. So if that's 57, then this one must also be 57. and together those two create a linear pair. So I could take these two and I can say 3x minus 9 plus 57 equals 180 degrees. Okay, so we decided that one by corresponding to get here, and then we decided linear pair to get here. Now the nice thing about these problems is that you don't have to do it this way. You could have also recognized that 57 was linear pair up here and found the measure of this angle and set them equal because they're AEA. So there are multiple ways to set up these problems. Number 6, we have two angles here on the inside and on the same side of the transversal. Those are SSIA angles. And SSIA angles, when the lines are parallel, equal 180 degrees. So we would take 3x plus 38 plus, I think that's a 6, let me check. Yes. Oops. 6x plus 7 equals 180, and then we would solve. Okay, two more examples. So we're given that line A and line K are parallel. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those with the arrowheads because we need to get used to seeing that. They tell me that angle 6 is 75 degrees and that angle 2 is 30 degrees. So I do want to mark that on my page because it's going to help me find the others. Now I'm going to start looking. 6 and 5 are a linear pair. So I could take 180 minus 75, and that's going to give me 105, and that's going to be my measure of angle 5. Okay, so angle 5 equals 105. Then I'm going to recognize, since these two lines are parallel, I can see that 3 and 5 create a Z, which is AIA. So angle 3 is also going to be 105 degrees. For angle 1, I see here that there is a straight angle made with angle 1, 2, and 3. So I can take 105 plus 30, which is 135, and subtract that from 180, and that is going to give me 45 degrees to be my angle 1. And lastly, then I can see if I make another Z with angle 1 and angle 4 and angle 1 are AIAs, so that means angle 4 is also 45 degrees. Now, I know I went through that quickly, so make sure you go back through and watch this again if you did not catch on to that. And let's do our last round of practice here. Remember, and I didn't mention this before, always extend your lines. I noticed I did that before I turned this video on. So always extend your lines so that it looks like the pictures we're used to. So the two arrowheads means the lines are parallel, so I have to find x and y. So the first thing I want to find is x. So here's my x angle. And if I notice highlighting this, if I continue, it's going to make a Z. AIA angles makes angle X 45 degrees because they are congruent when the lines are parallel. And lastly, if I look at Y, I have this angle here and this angle here. They slide into each other. That's corresponding. So angle Y is going to be 85 degrees. Now what I have listed here is the homework for both nights, because Friday you will be working on a worksheet during class as notes and then completing this bookwork here for homework. So tonight, for Thursday, you're going to be completing page 347, and then tomorrow, if you forget or the sub can remind you because it's on the paper for her, Friday you will be doing page 364. So you will need to complete both things of homework and submit them like normal, and when I am back on Monday we will be reviewing everything, and that's when I will start checking your homework and everything. Okay, see you later.